Welcome to another exciting Pollinate podcast. And, some time ago when we moved into this area, we got to know some of the local farmers. And there is one very exceptional person that we're lucky to have here with us today, Angie Scharnhorst. Tell us your last name.
Scharnhorst.
Scharnhorst. I knew I'd screw that up. But you said that's happened at school, right?
Yeah. Yep, that's me. I'm here.
Yeah. Anyway, Angie and her partner in crime, Marla, run a great CSA that my wife and I are privileged to be recipients of. They have really turned our summer and more winter dining into very exciting vegetable euphoria. So
wow.
Thanks for that. And also they have sort of taken over our refrigerator. We had to add a little refrigerator to manage the surge. And that's on my wife and I, and mostly my wife, I would say. But in any case, Angie, it's great to have you. And today, let's just dive right in. And so tell us a little bit about the road that took you to this farm. Tell us about your CSA and the road that took you there a little bit.
All right. So my name's Angie Scharnhorst. I am the owner and farmer at Bountiful Harvest Farm. It is a farm in Solon off Sugar Bottom Road, about 9 miles from Iowa City, from downtown good old Iowa City. So local food is very important to us in that it is actually very local, like 9 miles away. So that's a big deal for us. The road that got me here, it's hilarious when I kind of think about my life and jobs. I've been a college softball coach. I have my previous life, I always say, is an event coordinator at a convention center, worked in a sporting goods store. So I've had many paths to where I am now. I'm not the typical, I didn't come from a big ag family or go to school at Iowa State or anything like that.
A billionaire.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, I am. But no, I don't have any of that. But I had a family that loved growing food for themselves. And my grandmother grew food for her 5 children and canned and put up. And just, I had a family that just loves the outdoors. So kind of got into the canning aspect and learning that from the grandma. My mom always said it skipped a generation, so she doesn't really know what happened there. But she's doing it now and gardening and stuff. But I just had this interest in knowing something that, like, you know where your food comes from and it tastes so good. And then I took because of the canning, I went to a farm, and when I was living in Austin, Texas, I went to a farm and they had a big tent set up, and the farmer took us around to the different areas where he picked the food. And then we went over to this tent, and the woman showed us how to can the things that we had just picked. And that was just amazing to me to know, like, I saw where the food came from, like where it was going to end up being canned. So from then I knew I liked gardening and just doing that. When I moved to Iowa, I actually had a chance. There's not a lot of large convention centers in Iowa City. So, and the regional ones weren't hiring. So I had an opportunity, blessed enough to take a break and kind of see what was around. I couldn't just sit at home. So, paused and went to a farm here and kind of started volunteering. And then here I am. Like, I just got hooked. It was the bug. Worked for a farmer for a couple years, and then was asked to help manage another farm. And then for the last 2 or 3 years, I've actually been owning an owned and operated Bountiful Harvest Farm on my own, bills and all. So, and not being a billionaire, no, they are very important bills. So that's kind of the road. So it's very unconventional, but I think in that I'm also not, I kind of get where people, maybe who don't have an ag background, just the appreciation of food, or trying to teach people that appreciation of local, grown from good soil with love. Food tastes a lot better. So,
and tell us a little bit about how you built an audience for this, because I mean, one of the things that strikes me is you have a great personality that comes through with your emails and your newsletters that go out to customers. Tell us a little bit about what that was like.
Yeah. So I think when you get, when I was in Austin, I was a member of a farm, and I would get like a kohlrabi, and I had never had a kohlrabi, and well, what do you do with this? And you don't want to waste anything. So, for me, it was very important to not only just give, you, as a farmer, you want everyone to eat seasonally because that's what's good for the soil. Like you're not trying to, you can extend a season so much, but you're not doing inputs and things that aren't good for nature. But so if you want people to eat with the season, especially like in a place like Iowa where we have a short growing season, but it's cold and all this different things, you can only grow certain things at certain times. With eating with the season, then you get funky things like maybe people don't know about pak choy, kohlrabi, collard greens, like I love them, but that's kind of a Southern thing. So just different things. I want people to get that and be interested in at least trying it. So for me, I want people to know like the story behind it. So in the emails that you had mentioned, like with the CSA that we have, I send weekly emails out that shows people like the pictures of how things are grown so they can see what a kohlrabi looks like growing in the ground. Weeds and all around it, because that's part of what this farming thing is. And then just to know how it, like, that's what it looks like. Then this is how you cook it. So I try and find recipes for them, give them storage ideas and options. And like daikon radishes, it's amazing to me, this big monster radish, how many people love it. Like we've gotten rave reviews this year on daikon radishes, like it blows my mind. But things that you don't normally, because you don't see those in grocery stores, because everyone, with the grocery stores, it's the round, perfect round, red tomato, which is sometimes pink. And you just don't get a lot of variety. So for me, it's giving people variety, letting them see. I think that's why people join a farm, is to get that experience with it too. And that's what everybody's looking for nowadays, is big experiences also. So just giving that, when you become a member of the farm, you're actually a member of the farm. You're not just going and picking up vegetables. You can do that anywhere. So I want you to be a part of Bountiful Harvest Farm. But
you're starting off coming up from Texas, right? And
so
you don't know that many people here.
No.
And now you're part of a farm and you volunteer for a while. But when it comes to your own farm, how do you build that audience? How do you, what's, if you had to give somebody a recipe book or what's worked for you, what would you say?
So I was lucky enough to transition into, the person that owned the farm had a lot of contacts here, like that owned the land. So he had a lot of contacts, so that helped a lot. But with me, I think it is that if you start out with 5 members, 25, 75, 150 members, that you really take the time to get personal relationships with them, because then they pass it on to their mother, their neighbor, their coworker. We had this year, I know it's been an exceptional year because of COVID, but we actually went almost tripled our CSA numbers this year. And we had about, I think, that and more on our wait list to even get into our CSA. But it's just about really creating that community is just really important with us. So we're also blessed enough to go to a farmer's market. So we do the CSA and we go to the farmer's market. So we have people that pick up boxes at the farmer's market, and people kind of look like, well, what are they getting back there? I have to sit here and pick this out and you're just packing it for me. And I'm like, oh, awesome. So I think there's a different, just being able to branch out to different ways of selling your produce. And then I also think getting to know your other like local farmers and the community around that, to where if a friend of mine CSA sells out, she can then, she can say, hey, there's another one over here as well. So it's, it's tough. You can't just walk in and act like, hey, that's probably why we haven't moved anywhere. Because you work so hard for year in, year out to kind of build that community around yourself. It's not an easy thing. It's not, we always joke that farming isn't all rainbows and butterflies, like there's a lot of other stuff with it. There's a lot of rainbows and butterflies too, but there's some compost and weeds in there.
There's butterfly poop too.
Yeah. So I think just being an open personality and talking to people and getting to know people. And there's a lot of farming friends of mine that they do it because they don't want to get out there and stuff, but to me that's what it's all about. I love the community aspect of it, and the food has a story, and that my members 3 years ago had a baby, and now I know this kid growing up, and that she likes to eat carrots, right out of the bag, or mom can't get home without having the cherry tomatoes, gone from farm to her house. So I don't know. I just think it's about the community.
Fantastic. So you do farmers markets as well. And obviously this year's pretty tough for that, but yeah.
As in none.
Yeah. But talk us through that. I mean, what's your take on sort of working with a farmer's market or CSA or supplying restaurants? I mean, you have different channels, right, that you can work on. But what's worked best for you, and you know, what's been challenging in some of these venues?
So for us, we're still, to be honest, still trying to find, you know, like that combination, because I love the farmers market aspect of it, because you're talking to people all the time. My community of my CSA, they come and pick up and we talk, but then I get to reach other people. There's a lot of people that don't want to become part of a CSA. They can't eat that many, you know, vegetables. They've tried kohlrabi or daikons and they just don't want it. You know, they're not going to eat kale. So they don't want those things, or they just can't do it year round. You know, like they got a lot of kids that they do traveling and playing ball. So for me, it's just another way to get my food that I grow into the hands of the community. It can even come down to financial. Some people can't do the upfront X amount of dollars to begin with, but they can shop locally and weekly at the market. So for me, I didn't want to just kind of, and this year is a prime example of that, like kind of pinhole myself into one area of just being CSA or just being farmers market or just selling wholesale. And for us, it's been a blessing this year. Last year, coming into this season, we had planned on doing a lot of farmers markets, because we did really well with that. And then COVID hit, and then there are no farmers markets around here. There's online stuff. So at the beginning of the season, we had to really kind of regroup and pivot. You know, that's what we've joked about. We've been regrouping and pivoting a lot this year, like kind of every other week. But we decided to up our CSA by quite a lot, because you know for sure that that's income coming in. You know how much to grow, and you know, get it out the door. So that in the CSA aspect, that's nice, because you kind of know what you're doing, what you're selling. In the market, you're hoping that you're going to have enough people come and you know, buy your stuff, and you're not going to have to load it back, you know, take it back with you and can more stuff for you, which is good. So it's just, and with me personally, I guess I love the wholesale aspect too, and selling to restaurants, because I know that like I can sell my food to a chef, and then he or she can transform it into this amazing dish, and even more people get to experience my vegetables. You know, like someone who would not go to a farmer's market or doesn't do a CSA can come eat at a restaurant and, you know, have the best tasting tomato they've had in their life, because they've never bought that. And I think if we as local farms can get more of our food out to different areas, people will try them and then appreciate the value of those. But we also started an online farmers market, or an online farm store this year. Something, you know, never thought we'd have to do. This little speck of a farm in Solon, Iowa now has an online farm store, you know, because we didn't have our farmer's market to go to. So people can order online and come pick up in our veggie drive-through, with a cute little name that we called it.
Oh, clever.
Yeah. So they can come pick up in our veggie drive-through. It's pre-packed and ready for them. We got our masks on, we put it in their car, and they go. So a lot of people have enjoyed that, you know, like that part of it. They still feel like they're part of a farm, a community, but maybe couldn't get into our CSA. So
is that something you think you'll carry on?
Gosh, it's so tough. We'd love to do that. There's so many of us that have talked about how it's nice we can be at the farm still and work. We're not loading the truck or the van or whatever and going to a farmer's market and then loading it up. And that's like, if we had for example, a 5 to 7 farmer's market on Wednesdays, you know, sometimes we're leaving the farm by 3:30. So you're starting to pack up before then. You got to, you know, make your table all fancy and pretty and stuff like that. And then schlep it all back, you know. Of course we sell out, but when we don't, you know, you have to schlep it all back, and then you're 8:00 at night loading stuff back into your coolers and things. So it's been wonderful on that side of knowing exactly what to harvest, what to, you know, get ready for, and getting it out there. But it's just tough because we're not sure if the market's open again next year, if people will still engage in that, or if they're going to want to go to the market. So that's been tough. We loved it. We would love to keep doing it. We just don't know if we'll have the customer base there. So if you're out there, you want to let us know, that'd be great.
And what about, has it changed you going strongly towards CSAs? in lieu of the fact that there's no farmers markets, physical ones. Has that changed your perspective on sort of shifting more that direction? Or, I mean, if things ever go back to normal, what's your recipe then?
Yeah. I mean, I really liked the balance this year. It's tough because it's myself and then Marla, and Marla actually worked a full-time job also. So we had 50 CSA members and then our online farm store. So we did it twice a week. So that's 20 to 30 every time. So 75 to 100 people every week. And it was myself and then Marla came after work and helped. So, so that was a little interesting and tough with that aspect of, kind of the labor and man hours to put into that with 50 people and knowing that you have to do 50 people, all the time. But I don't know is the answer to that. It's just every year you got to find that balance and try and figure that out. So we thought we had a plan coming into the year. We were going to go do more markets. We're going to really amp up on that. And then hello. So at least we were able to, to transition that quickly. So that was nice. And able to, I guess it hit early enough. I don't know if that's a blessing, but it hit early enough to where we could plant more, and kind of beef up that for the CSA. So
a couple years back, I think it was 2 summers ago, the New York Times did this article about basically small scale vegetable farming and how it had blossomed. At the same time, I think one of the main takeaways that a lot of people got out of this article was just the grueling amount of hours that go in and the kind of almost inhumanly low wages, that you get when if you were ever dare to sort of figure out how much you're earning per hour.
No, don't do it.
Don't do it. So walk us through that. I mean, how sustainable is this for you? I mean, I'm not talking about for 20 years or something, but just like, how do you envision that? How do you look at that economically?
Yeah. That's a tough one. Farming is, I think, a big passion project, and you have to love it because there's many times through the year you're going to hate it. Like just not, I love doing what I do. I love giving, like picking out that seed and because it's going to be the most unique or interesting color or taste or, but there's going to be times where you plant that seed, you babied it forever and you look at the crop and it's dead and someone asks what happened. You're like, I do not know, because you've looked at the pests, you've looked at the water, there's drought, diseases, and sometimes things just don't turn out. So yeah, the financial aspects of it it's quite daunting. Just like, like land around here in Johnson County, I would love to stay around. I currently lease land, which is great. I've got a great situation. I would love to have my own farm, just the owning the land, and living on the farm. I live 20 minutes away from the farm. So commuting in to roll up a high tunnel in spring and then, okay, it's too cold to do anything else. So I go home, and then I got to go close it at night, or turn the propane tanks on. I would love to live there. But land prices are very expensive around here. And we always joke that's a lot of zucchini and summer squash that you sell for $1 to make up the mortgage every year, or every month. So it's a tough one. Just trying to find that balance. I joke around, in my previous life, I was an event coordinator, and those are some grueling hours. And it's like a walk in the park after farming. I do it on the off season, usually go and do large conferences in the off season. Those were canceled this year. They're gone virtual, but it's crazy when you look forward to running a conference for 17,000 women because it's a break from farming. So, but yeah, it's a tough thing that every year you really have to kind of reevaluate and try and figure out, like, can we do this and can this keep going?
Is there a scale you think that it starts to be more manageable? Or, I mean, let's say, that the land prices were such that you could afford a farm. How big a farm do you think it takes for a full-time?
Yeah. And that's just so interesting in the balance because you have to figure out, coming like we just talked about market or CSA or wholesale, and that plays a big part into it. And then, everyone always talks about, because that's the way America works, is scaling up and getting bigger and doing more. So you scale up and you get bigger and you do more and you have to hire people. And I'm not going to pay someone $8 an hour to come bust their hump either all day. You know, I want to pay them a living wage, but like you said, I can't pay myself. You know, I haven't paid myself. I'm like, woo, but you get canned tomatoes. So, which is amazing. They're worth their weight in gold. But, for me to hire someone, I want to be able to be able to pay them decently. So ramping up and going bigger isn't always the answer, because then you start having money go out the door because of labor. So it's, we are not certified organic, but we're organic practicing. So it's not go plant stuff, go spray stuff to which it kills the weeds, go harvest it with our which combines are ridiculously expensive. So we don't have that. So that's good, but when you plant a carrot, we can try and do all these things, but there's weeds. Weeds are going to come up, and then you spend 4 hours weeding that carrot. So every time you're on the hour weeding, that profit, it's going down, and it just, so I don't know the answer to that. When I have a magic wand, and anyone does have a magic wand, I would love to know. But I think that's one of the people ask, like, the biggest struggle is just that financial kind of aspect of that, just the land, being able to purchase a farm, because, I lease, and that's amazing. There's benefits to that. But then if I don't own the land, building infrastructure or putting money, I'm always going to put money into the soil because that's what grows a good product. But then in a year, I might not be there, because I don't have a long-term lease. So it's just tough when things that people don't think about, that they shouldn't, I don't know if they shouldn't necessarily think about, but you don't expect them to think about, that compost costs money, like to put it back in the soil, and you have to put it back in the soil. But then at the end of the year, you could be gone, and that's your value of what you have built up. So I don't know that scaling up is the answer. That's why we've kind of played around so many years with farmers market or, like CSA, and there's a lot of people that have off-farm jobs. Do you go get that? But then you're already working. I mean, like, I get it to the farm at 6:30 or 7 in the morning, and there's times when I leave at 10 o'clock at night, and it's crazy. So I don't know how that part-time job trying to to pay the bills fits in that, in that schedule. So, I mean, it's tough, and there's a lot of benefits, to farming. But then the financial thing, you're just always worried about a derecho that comes through or a drought, like the things that we've been through this year has been unbelievable. So everyone that's still standing, kudos to you.
Exactly. I mean, one of the things that isn't standing so well right now is the restaurant business. And I know there's been a lot of sort of tailwind for restaurants to at least take some food, and even institutional places like the university and stuff are starting to take more locally produced foods. How's that business? I mean, prior to COVID, obviously, but I mean, how does that work for you? What's the challenge there? I mean, obviously the price isn't as high, I take it.
The price isn't as high, but you're also not, like, I can sell 50 pounds of something at one time. I don't have to, like, for carrots, for example, if I'm going to sell X amount of carrots, like 50 pounds of carrots versus taking 6 carrots, bundling up, and then laying them on the table in crates and transporting them. So there's those costs in there too, labor, bundling or, harvesting them and putting in a large crate versus taking the time to pack them up. So wholesale isn't necessarily, a bad thing when you can get the business, like the level of, like it's tough when you're, like someone calls you and then that's the one time you hear from someone, they need something right there, and then you don't ever hear from them again, but they want a wholesale price or something, like, I think that's another thing that goes back to just building that good community and building a strong relationship with them where, maybe you're not going to get an order every week, but that restaurant or that university or whatever is really interested and bought into local foods, either because they taste better, because they know where they come from, like the know your farmer, know your food. It's not been shipped on a truck. It's, like we harvested at the best time, at the best tastes, and we actually have looked into growing certain types of food that actually tastes good, not just can ship, across the country. Which, I mean, I've eaten a tomato from a grocery store in winter because I had to have tomato because I needed it. But it just doesn't taste as good. That's why I can, a lot of stuff. So, so I think that I I don't know. I like building that relationship. For me, it's tough because just getting in the door, like trying to, coming from a chef, that's a lot of trust too. Like you don't know who this person is, that maybe you've never heard them before. And I don't know anything about their farm. Are they really doing good practices, or, how clean are their facilities, things like that. So I think it's just getting your name out there and getting in the door. I haven't worked a lot with like institutions or anything like that. I know a friend of mine did. And when COVID hit, it was a big, tough switch from them. But like here, I work a lot with Chef Matt at Rapid Creek Cidery. And it's a really good relationship. I love the fact that he really and truly does value purchasing local. Like there's so many of my farming friends that I know that if he's not buying from me, it's cool that, hey, I just had your carrots over there, and they taste amazing. So I think that in itself then also builds community, because I, as a patron, can go and shop or eat at that restaurant. And I know it's feeding me, it's supporting that restaurant, but it's supporting the farmer down the street too. Yeah. So I think that's I think we need more of that right now in the world, is just that big community hug of supporting one another.
I mean, it'll be really interesting if we ever do get back on a sort of normal track.
Yeah.
Exactly how much of this stays around, because I mean, right now there does seem to it doesn't matter if it's us or you or whoever. I mean, everybody's talking about the same thing. There's been a resurgence of interest, not just in gardening or, fixing up your house or whatever, but in just supporting local foods, especially. Yeah. And, that does make the world go round economically. The money just spins over and over and over, and brings good stuff to everybody involved. But yeah, I mean, how much of that is going to go away? I don't know. It's interesting.
I hope that it, like you said, I hope that it does stay. And it's not, one thing that we've talked about, some friends and I have talked about, is that it shouldn't just be supporting local because it's, you're helping the poor little farmer over there. You're just seeking out something in your community that's there. Like if it's not there, okay, go, fine, go buy. Like I'm not going to buy a pineapple from someone here because I don't think anyone's growing pineapples.
Soon.
Maybe. But if it's from someone that and you can help someone out, why not do that? Or not even help them out, just that you're seeking out where you're being a smarter purchaser. You're taking your money and you're keeping it here, so that it's helping out the whole entire community, which helps out the whole food story, and just, I really do hope that it continues. Except for the fact that there's a huge shortage on canning lids. Yeah. That's been a little tough. Yeah. So people, we were joking that, after all this is done, it's going to be like canning stuff at the garage.
There'll be mountains
wow,
of
this
it.
is hard. Yeah. So, but yeah, just that, I really, really do hope that sticks around. Just from everything, just everybody taking a little break and taking a step back and appreciating the small things more. So we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. I mean, so much of this depends on consumers, obviously. Yeah. And I think people need to come to see that the decisions they make in buying food, where they buy it from, who they buy it from, have everything to do with not just what food goes in their mouths or their families' mouths, but it goes to how strong are our local communities. Is there money flowing through the community, or is it going one way as fast as it can to Minneapolis or Chicago or Tokyo or wherever? There's those food dollars make a tremendous amount of difference in a rural economy like Iowa. And I think people maybe don't fully appreciate just how much their buying decisions help determine the kind of social fabric that we have in this state. And you go around these small towns of what cheer and whatever around Iowa, and you see just, the declining of housing, the, people abandoning ship, and towns just withering up and dying. And that's, completely understandable given our dependence on one-way, industrial-based agricultural economics. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see if this does help prick people's ideas about, hey, this It was a little more expensive. I mean, that's the one thing that is true. If you want to,
I think it's just a value too, like the expensive of it. Like I always hear like, wow, it's just so expensive to go to a farmer's market. It's so expensive to buy organic, and or is it cheap?
Yeah.
To buy everything else, I know that my food, like when I take it as much as possible, when I harvest or when I give it to someone, when I sell to them at the farmer's market, when I pack it for my shares, it was harvested that day or the day before, maybe 2 or 3 days earlier, because we can harvest and store something because it was at its quality right then, its peak right then. And we have blessed enough to have some walk-in coolers that we can use. But it is a little bit more expensive, if we use that word, but it's a higher value. It's harvested at the peak of its ripeness and its juiciness and its yumminess, and it's not transported everywhere. It's not bruised, or it's not, nutrition. Someone has thought, like me, I sit at home in the winter in front of my cozy fireplace with my hot chocolate, and I sit there and I think of all the different colors and like that I'd like to have on my market table. I read up on the stories. I love heirloom vegetables. A lot of times we have hybrids that have grown. We grow a lot of hybrids that are grown for being harvested and stored and packed, or and shipped across, or they're the perfect round something, or they're this, and like I think those are great. We have a lot of them because people want like a good old red slicing tomato. But then we have like black Krim that is this like brown brick red tomato with green on top, and it is the best tomato. Like I love the purple Russian type tomatoes. But they have a story. So when I look up, we buy seeds from Baker Creek Seeds, and it's a lot of heirlooms. And you can look at the story. This was grown by Bob Smith, and like on his farm in Minnesota, and he passed it down 3 generations, or it came from the native tribe in this area. Like that has a story. I love that history of the food as well. And then I can pass that on to my customers, and then they know something a little bit more just besides like, here's a tomato, and then, so I think the expensiveness, yes, but you have the whole experience and a learn and a love and a knowledge and a community base around that food, just even in the stories that are around the food, like,
yeah, that's a good point. And I mean, to be fair, I think you can say, yes, it costs more per pound for that heirloom tomato. It does. But how much of our tax money is going into subsidizing the industrially grown tomatoes that are shipped across the country, whether it's cheap fuel because we subsidize oil companies, or whether it is other, externalized costs like water pollution or whatever. It's fair. And I think ultimately the responsibility of consumers to say, what sort of food system do we want?
Yeah.
And how do we build that? And the great thing that's happening right now is that more and more people, I think, are starting to say, yeah, there is some intrinsic value to buying from somebody I know. There's intrinsic value to the kind of produce they're growing. And that's what we're going to support. So hopefully that stays around.
Yeah. The fact that I know some of my clients, I know that if I got an extra sweet peppers, for example, I call Sarah because I know she's going to eat them up, but just the know your farmer, know your food things. We also know you guys as well, so we know that when we have extra of this, or like, I know maybe this chef doesn't love this, but hey, he's going to, like purchase this as the best tasting of this type of thing that I have. So yeah, I think, and then even with the whole, not even just related to food, but just the community type stuff, like you said, you can buy cheap stuff from overseas or wherever. Like if I buy, me as a farmer too, if I go and buy a toy for my nephews, if I buy it from a local, company, it's not an iPad, it's not a whatever that they're like, oh great, Angie's giving me another wooden something. But if I go and buy something from a local person in our community, then they're going to have money to go to this restaurant, which then just bought food from me. So it's just this big, circle, like you said, just keeping it here and keeping us strong and rich, and not rich in money, even just rich in neighborhood connections. So I hope that happens, or keeps happening, keeps building.
Happening. Yes, yeah. It is. There is a silver lining to this whole COVID thing. Yeah. And I think to the extent that you stay out of the political realm, and you just start to see some real goodness coming out of this.
That's one nice thing about, it's interesting because there's so many people that have been their lives have been so changed by this. And me, Marla and I are like, get up every day and go to the farm and keep working. We're like, oh, right. I mean, not, oh, right, this, it's not happening, but our day in, day out lives haven't changed, that much. And we were joking at first with other farmers. If I hear one more person say I'm bored, I'm like, oh my gosh. So, yeah.
So what's it look like? I mean, I assume in your mind already the wheels are turning for next year, and what's planning. I mean, what'll you do different? What are you thinking right now?
Oh, goodness. What will we do different? I don't know. We always make a list all throughout the year. We have, our phones that we pull out, and I'm a big picture taker. I like them for, just the beauty of it and sharing them on our Instagram and things like that. But it's a way for me to remember, like, oh yeah, don't ever grow that again. Ever. This is the fourth time you've tried to grow that, Angie. Don't grow that again. So I guess just like different varieties. One thing that we've gotten a lot of praise on is our cherry tomatoes. We know that we are not going to change a darn thing about those. You
cannot, no, because my wife would come over and hit you in the head.
Candy, it's like candy. So, good. It's the best thing we've ever had. I love those kind of comments. So for us, we're still in it. We still have got broccoli and cabbage and kales and cauliflowers out in the field. So we are winding down, but haven't even had that time to kind of regroup and figure that out. So, but yeah, I mean, now is the time where we're going to kind of start looking into what worked, what didn't, tools that worked, tools that didn't, tools that we are going to purchase because I can't go through another time without having something to help me do this, So that's the time when when the snow melts is when at times when we can kind of take a breather and start planning it all out. It's when we start getting seed catalogs in the mail. The good reading, the good readings and stuff. So, I mean, we'll probably still do the farmers market. We will definitely still do the CSA numbers wise and things like that. We're just gonna have to kind of think about it and what worked and what didn't, but we love growing for our community. So we want to keep doing that.
So tell everybody how they can get a hold of you. What's your website and whatever the hell, Instagram,
all that stuff.
or whatever.
So our website is bountifulharvestcsa.com. And we have it's all from there. You can go to anything.
Okay.
But we have our online store, there's a tab at the top of that has store. I think you can click on that. It'll take you to the store. It's funny how I have it copy paste on my Instagram. But yeah, there's a couple Bountiful Harvest. There's one in Mississippi that we're really good friends with now because like someone will call me in February or March. Hey, are you going to have strawberries at the market this year? I think you're checking on the Mississippi one because we're still frozen. And he'll say like something like, I got a message the other day about corn. So, but yeah, bountifulharvestcsa.com is our website. My email is ascharny, ASCHARNY @me.com. So you can, shoot me an email. We'll get you on our email list for our online farm store. We do that on Wednesdays. For our veggie drive-through, we can do Wednesdays and Saturdays. So you order like on Tuesday and Friday, like before, load it all up and easy cheesy. You just drive on up, we put it in your car and off you go. So,
fantastic. Well, thank you, Angie.
Thank you very much.
And thank you all for tuning in to yet another super exciting and tantalizing episode of Pollinate. And we hope to see you guys around again. Check us out one way or the other, however you use device or whatever device you use. Cheers.